Hi everyone. I'd like to show you another app that I've been working on the Apple Watch that's powered by the MobileFirst Platform Foundation server. Before I show you my app, I want to show you the stocks app that comes installed on the Apple Watch, produced by Apple. And you can see we've got a list of stocks with their current price, the current change in the market. If the stock is up, it's green. If it's down, it's red. If we tap on any one of those stocks, we can see the details about it, so the price, the change, the percent change, the low and the high. We've got a nice little chart, and we can see more data about each one of those stocks. Now, if I jump back to the app that I produce, it's powered by MobileFirst Platform Foundation server, I've recreated the stocks app UI and powered it from data from the MobileFirst Platform Foundation server. My data is simulated, so this is not based on real market data. This is just data that I'm generating in JavaScript to mimic data that looks real. And for any one of these, I can go ahead and tap on the item, and it's going to make a request to the server. It's going to pull back additional details, so you can see the current price, the change, the high, low, open, EPS, volume, 52-week high, 52-week low. I could have included more data in here, but I really just chose a subset of data to demonstrate what the app's capable of. And the service it's used to populate this list, so it's being called every time that the app is brought to the foreground, so you can get the most accurate data. So if I come back here, we'll watch the data just changed. That is simulated data, but it's making a request in the background from the phone to the server and pulling the latest data, and we can tap on any one of those and drill in and see the details. Now let's jump over to the desktop to see how all of this works. What we're looking at now is Xcode. And in Xcode, we can see I've got my project. There is the native application that runs on the phone, and we have our WatchKit app, which is the user interface that lives on the phone, and then we have our watch extension, which is the native part of the WatchKit app that runs on the phone and controls everything that's displayed on the Apple Watch UI. So I'm in my storyboard for the WatchKit app, and you can see that we've got two user interface views. If I expand the default view in here, we have a table, and for each row, we've got 3 labels whose positions are defined by groups. In our detail view, we've also got labels that will be used to display information about the stock, as well as groups, which define the layout and the placement of other labels and separators that are used throughout the user interface. Very, very straightforward, very basic. We're laying it out just like you would lay out any other kind of interface in Interface Builder. Now let's jump over and look at our JavaScript code for our adapter. And the adapter is the backend service that's being used to deliver data to the front-end application. On the MobileFirst Platform Foundation server, you can develop adapters in Java, you can develop them in JavaScript, and there are ways that you can expose data to a number of applications, whether they're native iOS, whether they're native Android, whether they're hybrid applications, whether they're just going to be exposed as RESTful endpoints. In this case, I've got 2 functions which are most important. I've got getList and I've got getDetail. I mentioned earlier this is not real data, that I'm simulating it on the client. You can see here I've got an array of objects that contain information about my stock. What's extremely powerful about adapters on the MobileFirst Platform Foundation server is that you can easily consume data from existing endpoints, transform that in a mobile optimized format, and deliver it to the client application. So if I wanted to pull data from a SOAP-based web service and transform that into a JSON object and strip out all the data that we don't need, it's very easy to do that. If I want to simply write a SQL statement and invoke a SQL query on an existing database and return that to the mobile client, it's very easy to do so. So in my getList function, the first thing that happens is I call my simulate data function. And if I scroll down to simulate data, basically it's looping over the data in the array and it's simulating changes based on random values to mimic activity in the market. Then what happens is I loop over the contents of the entire array, and I only want to return the symbol, the price, and the change attributes in the results of my getList procedure. So as I loop over the data, I'm creating a new object, and I'm just taking the values from this trimmed properties array, I'm pushing them into an array, and I'm returning it so that I'm only returning the absolute minimal amount of data that's absolutely necessary for the user interface. Then when I want to drill into a particular stock symbol, we can come down and look at our getDetail function, where I'm just returning the entire value. So rather than just returning 3 properties, I'm returning the entire object as the result of this procedure. Now let's take a look at how they're being invoked from the native WatchKit application in Xcode. There's a fair amount of native code here. What's really important is if we look at our willActivate method, which gets invoked anytime the main app user interface is displayed on the Apple Watch. And you can see that I'm calling the refresh data function. Inside of my refresh data function, I'm calling a method on my data manager, and I'm calling getList. This is going to make a request to the server to get the list of stocks that's used in my default applications view. What's interesting about my data manager class, if I show you right here, I've got a directory that's called shared. If I go to my data manager class, if I expand the sidebar here, we can see that for target membership, it's including both the stocks app and the stocks WatchKit extension. So let's look at our getList method, which we have right here. And this is where we're actually requesting data from the MobileFirst platform server. First, we have a URL, which maps to our stocks adapter getList procedure. Then we're going to use WL resource request, and we're going to call send with completion handler. Once this request is complete, we'll have the response, and we'll be able to see an error if it happens. And if there's no error, all that we're doing is we're grabbing the response JSON, and then we're going to call the callback function, which is passed into this method, and we're going to return the object for the stocks key, which is going to be an NS array containing the stocks data, which came back from the server. If I jump back over to our interface controller, where we've invoked this procedure from my data manager, where I called the getList method, when it returns the results. I'm saving that locally, and I'm calling my build UI method. In the build UI method, I'm not doing anything in particular to the MobileFirst platform. I'm actually just looping over the data, I'm populating the table, and I am setting the values for the stock label, the price label, and the change label based upon the values that are being returned from the server. And I'm also going to set the text color and set the background color based upon the values that are coming back from that server. Very, very straightforward. The best part about all of this is that because this data has been delivered through the MobileFirst Platform Foundation server, I automatically get analytics upon everything that happens within these adapters. So I can see the amount of hits on the server. Right now I'm looking at it for the last 7 days. This is just my local machine, the development server. So if you had a production server, you'd see a lot more data than this. But I can see how many sessions there are, how many calls there are for adapters. I can see if I have a cluster of servers, how much traffic is coming to each server. I can see the number of hits for each adapter. Let me jump over to our network tab where I can dig in a little bit more. Again, we can see calls per day. We can see the number of calls per application if I had multiple applications being hosted on this server. I can see which procedures are being invoked. Again, I can see the number of calls per server. And then I can come over to adapter requests and drill in even more. So I can see the average round trip response time. I can see a chart that's plotting adapter average response time over whatever time period. I can also come in for each procedure, and I can see the average response time for each one of these and which procedures are taking longer than other procedures. And in addition to all this, because I'm using the MobileFirst Platform Foundation server, I get metrics on all the devices that are connected to my server. I also get the ability to have remote collection of client logs. So these are all log messages that originated on the client application running on the device, and I'm able to collect those remotely from the server. Be sure to check out my blog where I'll discuss this in more detail, and stay tuned for additional posts on powering Apple Watch applications using the MobileFirst platform. Thanks.